This video is going to basically be a part two of sorts. So for anyone that saw my video yesterday, it started out kind of talking about how it basically going to the keyboard, is something a lot of writers tend to dread, and it basically shifted to kind of a reflection on the fact that I have been at this now for well over a decade, and musing a bit about, if I knew at the beginning how long it would take to get good as a writer, would I have even started? I kind of took yesterday to think about it a bit more, and looking at it now, after a day, I would say yes. If someone had told me how long it would take just to get my first book done, if someone had told me how long it would take just to finally get 2 books out there, and what would happen in over the course of a decade, I would still have gone forward. It's one of those things where, for me, I tend to be patient. I'm someone that actually can suffer for quite a decent amount of time, with very little payoff. I am the opposite of a dabbler. If you're a person who dabbles, there's someone who might jump into something, get a little bit of beginner's luck, get a little bit of that initial spark, and spend 6 months, maybe a year doing something, and then jump out. The sort of rush you get at the beginning, that spark comes over you, and when that goes away, you just kind of leave it. For me, I'm very much the opposite. I'm the person who I don't keep drilling a bunch of shallow oil wells, right? If you want to use that metaphor, the dabbler will go around, they'll drill down for oil, maybe, I don't know, we'll use an example of 1,000 feet, whatever. Not find the oil, move on to the next plot, right? I'm the person that would dig 100 miles down into something, and having not realized that I'm wasting my time on this particular well, there's no oil to be found in here, would stubbornly refuse to move on. That's more of what I'm inclined to do. I am inclined to put a lot of effort into something that, even at the point where it becomes clear that the return on the investment is not going to be there. That's more where I tend to fall on that spectrum there. Fortunately, as the years have gone by, I'm much better about doing that, about recognizing kind of the sunk cost fallacy and things, and to sort of recognize when a project does not have the staying power, when the return on this project is not going to be worth my time, et cetera, et cetera. That is a good thing now, but if I was to sort of look at myself and where I would fall on the extremes, I am the overcommitment side of things. And so for me, if I had known ahead of time how long it would take, I still would have gone through. In fact, you probably could have told me it would take 15 years before my first book got picked up, or even be 20 years before my first book got picked up, and I would probably still go forward. Probably. You tell me in my early 20s that by the time I'm like 40, I'll start to get books out there. You know what? Everybody's going to turn 40 at some point. You might as well have something to show for it. That would be my attitude. Of course, it assumes you live long enough to... I am kind of just assuming that based upon the actuary tables that I would live to 40. But yeah, for me, that is it. That for me is my mentality. And what I will say, I guess, on the side of that, though, is the good thing to know is that we don't know how long it will take. Ignorance is bliss, in a sense. you're able to, and in a kind of a good way, it's almost encouraged to think that maybe this book will be it. Maybe this book that I'm writing in year 3 of my career will be the one that takes off, right? I'm buying the lot, and I'm getting my lottery ticket here, and maybe it'll pay out. Odds may not be great, but maybe it will. There's hope in that, and that hope tends to keep you going. It's the other side of the argument. If someone told you it would take you 10 years before you get your first book out, you would probably just tinker away for those first 10 years on one book, and then whatever would get released. And you wouldn't be all that engaged in the process. But because you don't know what one's going to connect, you don't know which book is going to work, you don't know at what level you're going to be ready, you can sort of lie to yourself and think that every attempt is going to be the one. And it's heartbreaking when it's not. It hurts you for days, weeks, months. If you're like me, you turn that into your next book, which is basically what Going Over was. But with it, there's a certain level of hope and faith you can put into your projects when you don't know the outcome. And that can keep you going. That keeps you sane. That keeps you from thinking the worst thoughts. I don't know what this next book's going to be. I certainly feel like it's going to pay out. I feel like it's going to be the best book that I have written so far, and maybe the best one I'll ever write. I hope not. It's kind of scary to think in like your mid-30s that you'll never write anything better. But you hope that this project works out. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in a couple years, few years, however long it takes when this book's done, maybe it's absolutely atrocious. And you know what? If someone told me at the start here it's going to be a complete bomb, it's going to be a terrible book, I'd never start. But there's a hope. There's a certain hope that keeps me to this page every day, and it's the hope that this book does pay out. It can be unfounded, maybe. Maybe it's an unfounded hope. Maybe it is more blind faith than faith put into something that has some evidence. I don't know where the probability, I don't know where on the scale that falls. But what I do know is that the not knowing is the bliss. The not knowing keeps me going. The not knowing is what tells me this next project is going to work. And in a couple years, if it turns out it's not, well, hey, you know what? The fact that I didn't know ahead of time and the fact that I believed in my work enough to chance it, that was enough for me. And so, I guess with that, as you go about your projects, remember that each book you write could potentially be the winner. Even if it's your first couple years, it could still maybe be a really good book. It's not likely, but it's not impossible.